Good afternoon from Accra, Ghana. Yes, it's about 2:30 in Accra, so it's afternoon here. Still morning time stateside. Thanks for joining us on this journey that we titled "Bridging the Gap." Um, there's two things we want to accomplish with this video series that we're going to do. The first is to kind of share our experiences on our two trips here to Ghana. One in July, and today is the last day of our second trip here in August. And secondly, we want to have a discussion around racial issues, not just in the States, not just in Ghana, but globally, because there's a link to all of it. So we want to kind of bridge the gap across the pond from where all of that stuff really started, which was centered right here on the west coast of Africa, and then spread out throughout the rest of the world. Mainly the United States, Brazil, the South Americas. We want to talk about that whole gamut, bring it all into an understanding of where it all started and why it is what it is today, and potentially how to change that if it's ever going to change. So we'll start with this trip to Ghana. We'll start with our first trip to Ghana and our experiences from the time we hit the airport to the time we left a week later, and kind of take you through the thought processes that we had. So, maybe let's start at the airport. Was there anything significant that stood out to you just hitting the airport in Africa for the first time?
Well, the first thing that's extremely noticeable is that everybody's black. As soon as you go into the airport, all the workers, everybody you encounter pretty much is black. So that was new and different and nice.
Different and nice. Explain nice for you. Why was that nice for you?
Because it's when you've grown up in a society where you are the other, especially like for me, I was in corporate America for like 20 years. Always the one or first or second. There's like two or three of us at the most, black people in the room. Um, in the areas I've lived, only a few of us. So it's nice to not be the other.
Yeah, when you don't have it, you recognize it. In the United States of America, there's this underlying tension that you don't recognize has been with you all of your life until you go somewhere. I've never been to Brazil. Brazil has, the second densest population of black people, African descendants, outside of the continent of Africa. I've never been there, so I've never been around this many black folks at one spot. Maybe at a certain occasion, but not everywhere you go, everybody looks like you. Mm-hmm. And
the people working there,
right?
People who are in charge,
right? Yeah. Right. The whole nine, from top to bottom, everybody looks like you. And what that helped me to realize is that there's this underlying tension in the States. It's no matter where you go, there's somebody looking at you sideways for absolutely no reason. Not because of anything you said or done, just because of the color of your skin. So putting your feet on the continent of Africa, where everybody looks like you, like your cousins, like your aunties, like your brothers and sisters, that goes away. That underlying tension of, is there going to be drama behind my skin color today? Mm-hmm. Goes away. Mm-hmm. So that was interesting, starting from the airport. And what was really, really interesting is you start to feel at home when the natives walk up to your child and start speaking to them in their native tongue. So we got to the airport and a couple young ladies walked up to Nisa and started speaking to her in one of the local languages, which is called Ga. And she looked at them. She didn't know what to say. She didn't know what to think, but they actually thought she was from here. So, until you speak here, you're not recognized. There's no chance for you to be other because you're at home. You look like home. So that was pretty powerful. And we recognized that before we even left the airport, that this is something different. We're experiencing something that we have never experienced before, just landing on the continent.
I think it was. Did you feel it, like the tension, like leave?
I felt
Yeah.
it in the airport.
Yeah.
In the airport, it was noticeably different. Look, we have to have the talk with our kids starting very young. 5, 6, 7 years old, we're having the talk with our children. That's implanted in our psyche that, you know, we have to be careful of what we say, what we do. We have to be cognizant of people or police following us or things of that nature. We tell our kids we have to be twice as good as other folks to accomplish the things they accomplish because we're not going to be given anything. These are the things that you implant in your children in the United States because they're factual. It's the truth. And it starts at a very young age. So you carry that with you every day, everywhere you go, and then you live it. You see it, you experience it, and then it just becomes part of who you are. To go somewhere where that goes away for the first time is life changing. It really is. I mean, you don't even know what's with you in the States. You don't know it until you go somewhere where you don't need it. And that's what happened on our first trip to Ghana. When we first hit the ground, it was like, it was home, which is strange because you've never been there before. But you feel at home. Whereas we've been born in the United States, raised all of our lives in the United States, and never felt at home in that way. Never felt at home where I could just be at peace in my skin and not worried about what's going on around me because we have to keep our radar up all the time. And just landing on the continent, that went away instantly before we could even leave the airport. It was recognizable. So after we got to the airport, we were met up with our host, Mr. Samuel Osei. Sam is the father of one of my clients. Mr. Osei is the father of one of my clients. Well, yeah, we'll call him Mr. Osei. We'll call his son Sam because he's Sam Jr. So Mr. Osei put us up in his hotel. He has a hotel here. He used to live in the States for about 36 years and came back to Ghana and opened up a hotel and has some other ventures that he's running here. But he was kind of our tour guide a little bit. He showed us around and allowed us to stay at his hotel and exposed us to the Ghanaian foods and things of that nature. But it was really interesting getting to know Mr. Osei and spending time with him and his viewpoints on, where to reside, be in Ghana or be in the United States, because he had dual residency. He was in the States for 36 years. So hearing some of the things he had to say were eye-opening because he's not from America, but he thought very much the way I think. So he said the two things he realized that brought him back to Ghana is, one, money can't make you happy. He spent some time in the United States and developed a very profitable business, lived in a very exclusive neighborhood.
Drove a nice car.
All the things, the American dream, right, that we say we want. He said that can't make you happy. And then the second thing he said that he realized about being in America is if he didn't leave, he was going to end up killing somebody. So let me give you a little backdrop of what Sam is talking about.
He's a really passive kind of,
really
mellow
guy. Small guy.
Yeah.
He's very small. You wouldn't even think about violence when you look at this gentleman, and especially when you hear him speak, you not think that. But he was like, man, I got to go home. I'm going to kill somebody over here. Here's why. In this culture, respect and manners and things of that nature are paramount, and it's on display everywhere you go. So Sam would talk to us and tell us about in the States how he'd have his employees, young bucks. Sam's now 70 years old. Mr. Osei is 70 years old. And he would have kids, 20 in their 20s and 30s. Yo, Sam, let me holler at you for a minute. And he's like, who are you talking to? I'm your boss. What makes you think it's okay to address me like that? The level of respect that is commanded just being in Ghana and being up in years. He's like, I could be paying your paycheck. Your livelihood could be tied to my business, and you still can't muster up a level of respect for me as an employee. That bothered him, but it bothered him worse, I believe, when he got that from outside sources unjustly. So Cheryl was mentioning that he had a very nice vehicle, Mercedes 500. Had a guest in town from Ghana and was out to eat one night and going home and got pulled over a couple blocks from his house in this exclusive suburban neighborhood. First thing the police officer said to him is something that a lot of us get if we're places they don't think we should be. What are you doing in this neighborhood? Why are you here? This is where he lives. He's been running a business for 36 years. Bottom line, he left America and what we perceive to be the best country in the world simply for respect. It wasn't about the money. It was about and peace of mind. Respect and peace of mind. Here's something else that Sam shared with us that is mind blowing to me. He's on high blood pressure medicines. He doesn't need those medicines in Ghana. He comes to the States, he needs them within 3 days. So what we're talking about when we hit the airport and what we felt kind of drop off of us is something that when you go back, it reemerges. That stress, that angst, that concern, that worry about just life in America, but I think that applies to everybody. But then when you're talking about being a black life in America, it goes to another level. So all of that kind of went away. And it was good to hear from somebody who's not there currently and who's not born there, who can validate what you feel like. I look at some of these incidences we see on TV or the videos we see on Facebook and other places, social media, where black folks are being harassed for barbecuing, for staying in an Airbnb, falling asleep on a bench at a school you attend in a common area, having the police called, whatever the case may be. And I look at these circumstances, scenarios, and I thank God every day it's not me, because I don't know what I would do with that at this stage of my life. I really don't know what I would do with that. So I can identify with Sam saying I had to get out of here before I kill somebody, because it weighs on you to that level. This is an older man, a peaceful man, a businessman, and a little man ready to hurt somebody over the foolishness, and he was only there for a portion of his life. So that was interesting. What else did we experience our first trip up?
Just the welcoming. Everybody was saying, welcome home.
Right.
We didn't get, I don't think the whole time we were there, we didn't experience the perception or the things that we've heard of how Africans from the continent feel about African Americans. Like
we're less than. We don't know our history. We don't know our culture.
Right.
And so they kind of shun that. That wasn't our experience at all. And to be crystal clear, our first trip here was just us and our daughter. Mm-hmm. And so it was only 3 of us. We didn't come with some huge delegation.
Right.
But everybody was open arms and welcoming, and that level of respect that Sam received, we received. Mm-hmm. Just simply because we're here and because you're older than somebody, you're going to get the level. We tell our kids all the time, especially in the black community, respect your elders. Now I know where that came from. That came from the motherland because it's on display. They will call you Papa, Mama, Daddy, Uncle,
Auntie.
Mm-hmm. We went to a ministry, went to church, and one of the leaders of the church service asked one of the younger men to take us over and show us the children's ministry. And when he introduced me to the gal that ran the children's ministry, he introduced me, he said, Uncle Roger, this is so-and-so. I don't know this young man. We may be related, but I don't know that. But that's just the kind of respect that they show on a daily basis. And beyond the respect is just the level of contentment that these people function in.
When you wouldn't think it would be. Like, we'll show some pictures that, would make you think they wouldn't be so happy or
bottom line,
pleasant.
Yeah, Ghana's is still a third world country. Most of Africa is still third world. So these people live in some difficult circumstances by our standards.
Yeah, by our standards.
As Americans, they live under some difficult circumstances. But they all get up, they bust their butt, they hustle. Only 17%, it's 17%, right? Mm-hmm. 17% of this country, of the people who live in this country, are employed by somebody else. The rest of them are out hustling, running businesses, entrepreneurs. on the street selling anything and everything you want to buy. You can buy on the street, from water to laundry soap,
towels,
face towels. They don't use them in the hotels. Furniture,
appliances,
couches,
yeah,
TVs,
yeah,
TV stands, washers and dryers.
New, not just used stuff.
New stuff on the street. It's crazy. They're out here hustling, and when you look at them, then how hard they're working, you think, man, this has got to be a rough life. But when they're not working, it doesn't matter where you're at. If you see people who are not working, they're always relaxed, content, smiling, laughing, joking, and enjoying life. Now, that's in a place that our president called S-hole countries, right? I read an article on the way here for the first trip that says in the United States, just as we're leaving the States, I'm reading this article, it says we've had 180 school shootings in the last 10 years. We have lost 337 of our children to gun violence at school, and they've done nothing about it. You come over here, and we're talking with Mr. Osei, and he's telling us they've never had a shooting like that. They don't have to worry about active shooters, school shooters, mass murders. They don't have that here. So then we return home to the States to find out there's been a mass shooting in Gilroy, been a mass shooting in Ohio, and there's been a mass shooting in El Paso, Texas. All while we were gone. One article telling us 180 school shootings in 10 years. Come home to 3 mass shootings taking place while we're gone. We were only gone like 9-10 days. What's really the S-hole country? You got to ask yourself these questions, because the way we portray these folks, and even though they live in different circumstances financially than what we may be accustomed to, they're content, they're happy, they don't have to take their blood pressure medicine, and they ain't killing each other left and right. Everybody's doing their thing, getting by, and living life and enjoying it to the fullest with a level of respect that you can only wish we could accomplish in the United States. So those are some of the things that we experienced. The reason we came here initially was to look for some place to have dual residency. We really are seriously thinking about spending some time, or maybe even a majority of our time, outside of the United States. So when we got here, cosmetically, it was a challenge for us. The things we saw, again, I've been to Mexico, parts of Mexico that are third world, but outside of that, I haven't really been to a third world country. I don't think either one of us have. So what we saw was a little bit of a challenge. So we want to show you guys some photos so you can kind of journey with us through our process, our thought process in experiencing Ghana and where we are now, because ain't no question in my mind whether I can live here. I'm looking for an application for residency right now. So we want you to experience that. We want to pull up some of the photos. Is that Jamestown? Mm-hmm. So this area right here is called Jamestown, Ghana. This is old Accra. Jamestown is the tour that we're on right now is Jamestown to Jamestown. Some of the first slaves that hit the shores of the United States, actually not some, the first slaves that hit the shores, the first 20 or so, came from the region of Ghana. So the tour we're on right now is from Jamestown, Virginia, all the way back to the motherland, Jamestown, Ghana. And this is what you're looking at. Jamestown is an old fishing community. You see all of those fishing boats. This is like, Peter and his boys from the Bible out in their fishing boats. This is how they make a living in Jamestown. There are several of these fishing communities in Jamestown. It was a bit of a shock. When you think of the hood, it was like the hood on steroids. It just has not been developed. But these brothers out there working and busting their hump. And actually, Mr. Osei, while we were there, bought some fresh fish for his restaurant. So everything they do here is fresh. They don't have any of the stuff that we put into our foods. Even their Their fruits don't last but a couple of days because they don't have the pesticides and all the other stuff that we inject into our food to make it last longer so people can make more money. It is pretty much you catch it, you eat it. You pick it, you eat it. It's 100% fresh without all the extras and the additives.
They do have some imports, but
what they have here is fresh.
It's fresh. Yeah.
Fresh as fresh can get.
And it tastes different.
It tastes completely different.
Yeah.
Man, we had mangoes here. I don't think I've ever tasted a mango until we got here. That was insane. The mangoes were ridiculous. Just super sweet. But this scene that you're looking at now with a woman, baby on her back, out in the middle of the day hustling, that's not an uncommon picture. Is this Cape Coast?
Mm-hmm.
So then we went up to Cape Coast, which is a couple of hours, 2-3 hours outside of Accra, and is where the slave dungeons are. They call them slave castles, or no, they just call them castles. Cape Coast Castle and Mina Castle. What they are is dungeons with housing. On top of the dungeons where they kept enslaved Africans before they moved them to the States or South America. On our way to Cape Coast, we took some pictures of some other areas of Ghana, of Accra. There's old Accra and areas like Jamestown that are really kind of struggling and underdeveloped, and then there's some other parts of Ghana that are nicer. We want to show you some of the pictures of those areas. So this is Labadi Beach, right? Mm-hmm. So this is a hotel in the city of Accra, in Osu, in the kind of more populated business region. Really, really nice beachfront hotel. You see the cabanas. Actually, that's Mr. Osei and I walking out to the cabanas in that photo. Really, so you have some places here that are extremely, extremely nice. And then you have some places here that are really, really underdeveloped. Again, that's Mr. Osu and I looking out over the ocean. I think we're watching Nisa take a horseback ride on the beach. Okay, so kind of to walk you through our thought process in what we saw. So we talked about the people. When we started to kind of move around Accra in the first couple of days, it was a challenge for us mentally because cosmetically, aesthetically, wasn't what we're used to in the States, right? So we found ourselves asking this question, is this something we could really do? Could we really live here? And then after our first couple of days, we got to see some of the other areas like East Legon and some of the pictures we showed you on the way to Cape Coast Castle and Osu and some of the nicer areas. And that helped, but it wasn't really seeing the nicer areas and the housing and slightly cleaner areas. That wasn't what changed our mind. It was literally the people. It was literally the people. As you get to spend time around the people of Ghana, all of the things you see with your eyes almost disappear because you want to be someplace where you feel at home and where people are welcoming and they're warm and there's a level of respect. Even when it comes to the driving here, traffic is extremely bad. Traffic is extremely bad. It looks like Times Square all the time. It's just crazy, honking, beeping, but nobody's aggressive. There's no road rage. There's no nothing. As aggressive as they drive, they do that with a level of respect. It's silly. Mr. Osei pulled over a couple young kids in a big truck. We're in his little vehicle. He honked these kids, ran them down, as we're at a stoplight, told them, if you keep driving like that, I'm going to snatch you up and take you to the police station. And all they could say was, yes, sir. I've never seen anything like it. The level of respect where respect is due is insane. So Over time, we did get to see some nicer areas, but it was not the nicer areas. It was the people that made everything here, look differently. They say beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Okay, well, when you behold beauty in people, all that other stuff don't matter. And we see a whole bunch of beauty in the people here, and they're so at peace and content, and the absence of all of the extreme nonsense that we have in the States. So you take away the angst of being otherized, or the concern of being otherized everywhere you go, and then you take away the angst of gang shootings, drug shootings, school shootings, active shooter drills because you went to Walmart. You take away all of that angst, man, beauty changes. Quick, fast, and in a hurry. So that was kind of the experience we went through, and what we realized is really showed a level of privilege in us. We've been in the States for so long, we've become accustomed to aesthetically, cosmetically, the United States is a great place to be, but what about all the things that really matter? People, relationships, valuing life. We don't have that value for life anymore.
And you have to think about, in America, people are getting more and more stuff. We got stuff, we got houses, we got cars, we got all this stuff, but people aren't happy. They're just not happy.
Versus being here, and some of these folks have almost no stuff.
Yeah.
So they're content everywhere you go. Doesn't matter where you go, they're content. And in the littlest things please them. So, for example, when you come to Ghana and you learn a little bit of their language and speak it to them, they get giddy. So when you say thank you here in Ghana, you say madasi. So when just a hotel worker does something for you and you say madasi, they light up with this big smile, this grin. It's like a kid in a candy store. The little things in life here mean so much to them, while we think we have everything and nobody's happy. You got millionaires and billionaires in the States killing themselves because stuff can't make you happy. And that goes back to what Mr. Osei said. He recognized money can't buy you happiness. I'd rather be at home and be at peace. So I think we're going to wrap this video up with showing you guys some unexpected treasures that we got on our first trip. We went to Elmina Castle after the Cape Coast Castle, and we didn't realize that Pana Fest was taking place there. Pana Fest is about Pan-Africanism, bringing the diaspora together. They do this every year, but this year, let me back up. This year is 2019, and it is the year of return. So the first slaves hit the shores of America, the first Africans, I should say, hit the shores of America and became slaves on August 20th, 1619. So the Ghanaian president has called for 2019 to be the year of return, which means that he is asking for all of the diaspora, all of the children of African ancestry all over the globe to return home. Rather it be to visit, rather it be to invest, rather it be to relocate. They've opened their arms, which changes the game drastically. I mentioned earlier, we've been told all our lives that Africa doesn't want you. Those people over there don't even like you. So the term African American really had no meaning to me. None whatsoever. I couldn't stand it. Call me black. Period. End of story. I don't have any ties to Africa. I don't know anybody over there, and they don't want me. If I'm Japanese American, I know I can go back to Japan. I know which village I come from in Japan. If I'm British American, I know I can go back to London or anywhere in that country, and I can track down my people. And if I can't track down my people, I know the country as a whole wants me back. Same for Australia, Samoans, anywhere in the world, New Zealand, Russians. It doesn't matter. You have somewhere to call home, and you have a tie, and they want you there, and you know they want you there. Well, up until this year, there was no country in Africa who was openly urging you as part of the diaspora to come back. So that's what this whole year has been about. That's what this current Jamestown to Jamestown tour is about. The year of return. We just happened to come last month when they were having Pana Fest, which is another every annual deal that they do, but it was really big this year because it was the year of return Pana Fest ceremony. So when we went to Elmina Castle, we stumbled onto this and got to sit and watch. They had representation from the diaspora from just about every part of the world. I'm talking about from Canada, from Brazil, from Haiti, from Jamaica, from Europe, from London, France, Germany, everywhere in the world. There was just about everywhere in the world there was somebody of African ancestry representing that part of the world at this Pana Fest ceremony. It was pretty special. Oh, that's nobody. So this is just a broad picture. These are some of the locals that were there. Dancing, playing the drums. Boy, they played the original drum line came from Africa. We've heard so many awesome drum presentations. It's crazy. Just some more photos from Pana Fest. These are the chiefs. So the chiefs kind of walked around, and then they announced the different chiefs as they had this stage set up where, for royalty. And they kind of announced them each as their groups walked through, all in the middle of all the chairs. They walked them through, announced who they are, and then they went and sat on the stage where the chiefs sat. I think I forgot to mention there was chiefs here from all over Africa as well. Ghanaian, Nigeria. It was an impressive display of diaspora unity globally. So again, this is some of the chiefs as they made their walk through the procession up onto the stage where they had the president and some other dignitaries from other countries.
And basically, they had the people from the diaspora walk around, and you shake everyone's hand and kind of just go through that whole process. It's kind of what they do, I think.
Yeah, we've experienced something like this on a couple of different occasions since this one that we stumbled onto, but it seems to be kind of traditional where you walk around and you greet the chiefs, and then the chiefs get up and they walk around and they greet the people. Kind of tradition here, but we weren't prepared for that. Hadn't seen anything like that. Didn't know this was taking place. If you can see in the background there, that actually I believe is Elmina Castle. That's where we were going. It was to the castle, and just happened to stumble on this. And we knew Pana Fest was here. We didn't know they were going to be having this ceremony, but we went to the castle, and so we got to take a small part in that, take some pictures, and see the whole diaspora represented in one spot. All right, guys, that is our first trip to Ghana that took place in July. We had this trip planned initially because we wanted to be part of this Jamestown to Jamestown tour and really get deep into the history and understanding of Ghana. We realized that our daughter was going to start school the Monday we were supposed to leave, so we came last month to have that experience, what we just shared with you, and we stayed with Mr. Osei and got a deeper look than what we got on this trip, because this trip has been about activities and making sure they can see as much as they can see. We haven't had much downtime, but we've seen a lot. With Mr. Osei, we got to get into the culture. We went to the markets with Mr. Osei and learned how the markets work. Mr. Osei is rough. He will bargain his behind off. It wasn't even his money. I'm like, it's okay, I don't mind. No, we're not paying that. So the negotiations here are real because these folks are out in the streets hustling every day. And so, you got to stay on your toes to make sure you're not taken advantage of, while also making sure that you provide a value for the work that they do. Because a lot of the stuff that you see that people buy, African stuff that you see, masks and jewelry and all this stuff that people get off the internet, These folks actually make those things.
Yep, by hand.
By hand, and then these other folks come and buy them up, put them on the internet, because most of the people here don't know that much about the internet. So the people who are playing middleman are making more money than people who are producing the product. So my thing was, I wanted to make sure we showed that we appreciate them and show value. Sam thing was, well, look, you gotta. This is how it works in Ghana. So it was interesting. We got to really get a deeper dive into the culture in our first trip, so we knew what to expect this trip. And so what we didn't get into from the first trip that we're going to get into in the next video is the slave castles. And the reason we're not going to do that now is because that's probably going to be several videos, because it is a very deep subject, and it's going to start to transition us out of just our time in Ghana into our other discussion about racial issues, things that need to be addressed and that we can never ever fix if we don't have an understanding. So we're going to start where it all began, right here in the west coast of Africa, the Gold Coast, the Slave Coast. It all started right here in Ghana. And so we're going to take you into those castles, show you some pictures and some videos of the worst kind of dehumanization I can even imagine. I've never seen or heard of anything like what they did to our ancestors. So to get to the bottom of where we are now, we got to start from the beginning. So we will do that in the next video. You got anything else, babe? Mm-mm. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully we'll be able to get home and get acclimated back to Central Time Zone and get this video out to you in the next week or so. God bless.